60-minute drive for a 60-minute game. After all the miles we've traveled, we're almost there. After all the hours we've worked, one more can make us legends. After all.
Welcome back to a new episode of The Last Word. It is your host, Brock Vierra, with my co-host right over, this way. That's why Bill does it like that. Greg, Rector at Greg's Cowboys, giving you guys a bunch of info about today's games in college football, insights, our takes, and all that good stuff. We are joined today by a special guest, Nathan Daly, big Navy football fan. He was just on a good friend of mine, Omar Borgia's Hardware podcast, to discuss various topics, including, but not limited to, Ivy League charm, Army-Navy Week 3 report, and a Pac-8 expansion. Of course, a bunch of teams from the Mountain West are headed over to the Pac-12, only entitled next season. But today we're with Nathan to talk about Navy versus Memphis. Before I get into you, Nathan, Greg, do you have anything to
add? Well, being a former United States Marine Corps Master Gunnery Sergeant, the Navy is our bosses, so anchors away.
Yes, that is what filled with the enthusiasm we like to see by our veterans of the armed forces. At Navy, as you know, Gunnery Sergeant was firing on all cylinders at a 56-44 win against the Memphis Tigers. The Memphis Tigers entered the game 3-0, coming off a massive win in Tallahassee over Florida State. Navy goes to 3-0 on the season, a bright look ahead for their schedule, but we can go to all that. However, Nathan, first off, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here. What are your thoughts about the game?
Hey, thank you guys very much for having me. I'm honored to be on the show. And my thoughts on the game, man, I'm pumped, man. I think that's a huge win for the program. I felt like we had a chance. I knew it wouldn't be easy, and it definitely wasn't. I was getting very nervous at the end of the game when Memphis got the ball back on that onside kick because I thought, oh boy, they're going to drive down the field. And Rayon Lane, who is a stud defensive back who, to me, should be getting a shot at the NFL, saved the day and got the pick six and sealed a big victory. And I'm very excited to see what happens the rest of the year here. I think we got a chance to have a really solid season here. And I think we made a huge statement to not just the AAC as a league, but also just college football, that I think Navy football is back.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you. I just like to see a quarterback like Blake Horvath have success in the air and on the ground as well. Reminds me of some of those great quarterbacks back in the days. Keenan Reynolds is definitely the guy that, I feel like we're seeing that version of Navy quarterback again. Of course, Horvath went 9 for 12 on the day with 192 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns, 12 carries, 211 rushing yards, and 4 touchdowns. The midshipmen, as you mentioned, they're looking good right now, and their schedule is looking real good. They got UAB next week, who's currently 1-0. They play Charlotte in 3 weeks from now, and of course, in 2 weeks, they have a massive matchup against Air Force. And obviously, when the Syracuse Academies get together, it's always a good time. Should they win all 3 games and be 6-0, they will be hosting the Greg's Notre Dame Fighting Irish on October 26th. And we could be talking at that point, should they win against Notre Dame, college football playoffs. Now, Nathan, how much of a possibility do you think it is that Navy could contend for that group of 5 automatic qualifying bid?
It's something that's crossed my mind, when this all started, with the playoff expanding and all that. I mean, if I'm being a realist, like, as much as I respect and love, like, just not just Navy football, but Service Academy football as a whole, I don't see us being a program that can consistently, like, make the playoff or anything like that. But I think that if we have, I've said this, and I've said this even on Omar's podcast, I feel like if we have the right kind of quarterback, like a Keenan Reynolds, a Malcolm Perry, one of those type guys, I think there's a chance, but it's every so often. I mean, this year, the way the schedule is looking, I think it could maybe happen, but this year I would have been happy with 7-8 wins, but I think there's a chance we could win 9-10 games. So I think there's a high possibility. I mean, as far as winning the league and making the playoff, I don't totally 100% know if that's going to happen or not. I mean, we all know that anybody that knows, the Academy's background. I mean, most of the time we are the underdogs. We don't have a bunch of 5-star talent. I mean, I do think some of the talent gap gets a little over exaggerated. I mean, you still got to have players, and like I feel like we have, especially on our defense, there's, in my opinion, like 4 or 5 guys that probably could be playing at Power 5 schools. Colin Ramos, Rayon Lane, but for the most part, we don't have the talent of a Notre Dame or something like that, and that's obviously why they run the style of offense they do. But I don't know. I guess it's a wait and see. But I want to be optimistic, but it's going to be tough. So
absolutely, and I think for SS Academy, I think that's the general rhetoric around it, just because of, like you mentioned, the lack of pool of which you can get players from. I think is the biggest differential in that. Looking ahead of their schedule, there's 2 games that I have as massive concerns for a loss for Navy. Obviously, Notre Dame is the first one, and then South Florida is the second one. You guys got to go down to Florida for that one, and they've been playing very well. But the schedule, like I said, works out very nicely. You guys play Rice, East Carolina, a Tulane team that has its ups and downs. So we'll just have to see what happens. Greg, do you have any questions for our guest?
Well, I mean, the game against Notre Dame is obviously going to be a tough battle. Last year's Shamrock Series kind of showed what awaits the midshipmen again this year. That Notre Dame defense is just very, very tough. They are loaded for bear, and can Navy's passing game attack a Xavier Watts, a Brandon Morrison? Can they get more passing than they were able to do last year against Notre Dame?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a general question. Well, something that is, I would say, advantageous to Navy is when this is year 2 in this newer style offense for them, so they'll be much more prepared for that match against Notre Dame. And then secondly, I don't think the Notre Dame linebacking core is as good as they were last year. I know you might disagree with me, Greg, but I think that when you had a player like Maurice Liufau out there, and guys like J.D. Bertrand, I think that they were much better tacklers, and that's why they were able to contain the Navy offense a bit more. It also helped that Navy absolutely whiffed on that 4th down attempt, which was a virtual walk into the end zone, had they been able to hit it. But again, that's something that we'll have to wait and see. But from today's game, Greg, what was your observations about Navy overall?
Well, Navy impressed the hell out of me today, because Memphis was the top-ranked team that I had going as far as the Power 5 schools. They had already beaten Florida State, and they had looked very good. And now, I hate to say this, but the number 1 team in the country for that spot is the UNLV Running Rebels. That's yes, Brock, your UNLV Running Rebels are the number 1 team going to the playoffs right now.
Yes,
and that's
they have.
I mean, Navy. I mean, they pounded Memphis today. They pounded them.
Yeah, and that brings me to kind of to a further point is when you look at Memphis today, or just Memphis overall, they're passing first offense without a doubt. Obviously today, Seth Hannigan threw 56 passes, 32 completions, 371 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Navy is never a team that you're known for being good at pass defense. Nathan, what are some of the things employed by Navy's defense today that helped stifle Memphis enough for their offense to be able to be as successful as they were?
Hope I can answer this right, but yeah, I mean, obviously, like, Navy likes to do a lot of blitzing and things like that. But I think, in my opinion, just really, like, the defensive line today, definitely, they were not the strongest point of the game. I mean, the Memphis quarterback definitely had a lot of time in the pocket, but I think they were able to do some other good things, especially in the defensive backfield. I mean, I think, especially even like like I look at even just how we covered the receivers today. I mean, there was a lot of plays where they had guys covered well, a lot of tip balls, things like that. So I think the defensive backfield just in general was really, I thought overall did a nice job today. I mean, they definitely had their ups and downs. I mean, Memphis is an explosive team. I mean, there was, I know some big runs by the Memphis running back that were, went for quick touchdowns, even the receivers. But overall, like I got to give the D-backs a lot of credit. And I think part of that, the thing that helped is the experience. I mean, a guy like Rayon Lane, I know he's been with the program for a long time. And, heck, I know had opportunities to be a transfer guy and go to like schools like Notre Dame and some other SEC schools. So, and to have a guy like that, especially seal the game for us with that experience was huge today.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I said Lane should have transferred after last year, and I know that Notre Dame was interested in that young man. I know the Irish wanted that young man.
Yeah, I saw an article about that like a few months ago, and like he from what I know, he didn't want to leave Navy, but he just kind of wanted to see the market, and he had a lot of people like different. I think Ole Miss was after him. I think Bama, like a bunch of schools, and I hope he gets a shot at the NFL. I think he's that good of a player. So,
just shout out to the young man for staying at Navy, because we always know that when you have that much interest, there's a lot of money behind it as well. And he decided to remain to his commitments at the Naval Academy. Nathan, last question before I send you on your way. Was there anything about today's game that perhaps shocked you in terms of how far Navy has progressed from year 1 to year 2?
Yeah, I think obviously the quarterback play. Blake has looked awesome. I mean, I don't think he's, do I think he's as good as like Keenan Reynolds or like Malcolm or some of those guys? I don't. I mean, I don't see him being an NFL prospect, but he's definitely a great fit for the system, and he's managing it very well. He's getting great runs, and even the passing attack. I mean, I was a little nervous about switching the system, but they look awesome, and I think it's been a great move. I mean, Drew Cronick is a heck of a football coach. I'm really impressed with him, and I hope we get to keep him around for a long time. So
perfect. Nathan, I know we gotta get you on out of here, so we'll get you for the final statement. So I will give you the opportunity now. Nathan, do you have a final statement you want to share with everyone?
Yeah, I'm just very excited about the Navy football season in general. I think like I said, I think they have a chance to have a great year. I would love to see them make the playoff. I don't know if it'll happen. I mean, it would be awesome to see them and Army have a huge matchup in December and or something like that, but we'll wait and see. But Army too, man, that's going to be a tough game. I think they're rolling big time, and I think December is going to be a very very exciting Army Navy game, which I'm really looking forward to, because I feel like the last couple of years have been kind of.
That's on December the 5th, is it not?
Yeah, I think first or second week in December. I can't remember.
I think it's December the 5th, which is this old man's birthday here. So this old guy wants to see Navy beat Army soundly, not just close. I want them to beat them soundly.
Yeah, no, I would too. They've had our number the last few years, so
exactly.
But they got a heck of a team though. Bryson Daly, their quarterback, I'm really impressed by him. I was a little stunned they kind of broke away from that spread option offense they were trying to run last year, because I don't think it looked awful, but looking back, they probably made the right move going back under center, because they were just they're humming and they're moving the ball really well. So,
well, Nathan, we definitely gotta get you back on. Then we have a bunch of veterans here at Team NBS Media that are heavily invested in that game, so we'll definitely talk with you later. Nathan, I just want to thank you for coming on. Before you go, just let everyone know where they can find you.
Yeah, so if you want to, I don't run a podcast or anything, I've been on Omar Rashad Borhar's podcast, the Hardware Pod, done numerous episodes with him, and if I'm ever on with him, you can watch me on there, or I also my Twitter is at Nathan Daly 76, and people want to follow me on there, they can. So
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
Thank you once again. Have a good one.
Yeah, thank you guys. Have a good
All
night.
right, take care, Nathan.
All right, Greg. Now we can get to some of the other matchups that we had listed. Today was such a wild day in college football, to say the least. Michigan USC is kind of the one I want to touch up next, just because of your hatred for quote unquote that school up north. How they were able
I
to
don't
pull
like
out.
either one of the. What do you mean? I don't like either one of those schools.
That's true.
Either one of them.
I think it's because they both beat the crap out of Navy beat the crap out of Notre Dame on a regular basis. But that's neither here nor there. USC, wow, to come back the way they did, and then to lose in the manner in which they did, and it all kind of stems back to the whole last year thing about their inability to defend the run. Do you think that this is a problem for USC going forward, or is this just a one-off issue against Michigan?
No, it's not a one-off issue. USC, I knew USC was going to be in trouble because, again, yes, they've looked good to begin this year, and especially defensively, but no, Michigan can pound you into the ground, and that's exactly what they did today. They pounded. I mean, they only had 35 passing yards. 35 passing yards for the Wolverines. That's pretty minuscule to say the least. But no, but I mean, all credit goes to the Wolverines for their defense and the way that they grounded and pounded against the Trojans.
Yeah, and USC had multiple opportunities to get massive stops in that game. Obviously, the 3rd and 1, which Mullings took for a massive breakaway, was huge, and of course, the game winning, and they're able to stop him. That's literally the game right there. So that's something that USC needs to address, especially with their schedule coming up. They have multiple teams that they got to play that have run-based offenses. I think Penn State is probably going to be a massive test for them when Penn State goes out to the Coliseum later on this year. So there's a lot of things to fix up for USC, but I'm not necessarily that concerned. I still think USC is a massive contender for this conference. I think USC is still a team that should make the college football playoffs. But from just a wider standpoint, if you look at all the former teams in the Pac-12 right now, had they remained in the Pac-12, USC would probably be one of the top contenders to make the Pac-12 championship game. Them in Utah. Oregon hasn't looked too hot. Washington is in a rebuild. Washington State's been looking good, but they got tested last night against San Jose State. Obviously, Cal is doing their thing, but we don't exactly know how they would have matched up against Pac-12 play. And UCLA, even though they had a somewhat impressive performance today at Baton Rouge, they're not a good Bruins team. So it definitely made some regret from the ADs from the whole conference realignment just because of how everything's shaking out. The only thing else I got to add to that game is that Michigan, I don't understand what's happening with Orgy. Like, he has the mechanics. Is it decision making? Is it confidence? Is it coaching? What do you have to add to that? I don't understand why he's doing the things he does, because he should be much better than what he is.
Well, I mean, like I said, they only had 35 passing yards today, and Urgis is a better quarterback than that other kid that they were throwing out there.
Or
the coaching decisions, I think, are what's hurting Michigan as far as the passing game goes. It's strange. Like I just don't see Michigan being able to carry on this way against every team that they play. There's too many teams out there that can put up a lot of points. And if Will Johnson today, that pick that he had was phenomenal. As I said before, he is my number one corner in this country. I don't care that he plays for that school up north. He is my number one corner. There's really Grant and Mason Graham and Kent.
Grant.
Yeah. those two defensive tackles are just massive as well. I mean, you can't get anything on the inside against Michigan. You just can't.
Yeah, I could not agree more. Before we move on, last question for you about Michigan and USC. Can Michigan use this as a bounce back game and get to the college football playoffs, or do you think that it's not a possibility for the Wolverines this year?
I pray that it's not, because I can't stand that place. I just don't like them. I'm sorry, but I just don't like the that school up north, Wolverines. I just don't like that place. And really, their schedule is not an easy schedule this year, which is a nice change of pace from the last two seasons that they played when they played nobodies. So, it's going to be a tough task, especially when they go on the road.
That's fair. All right, let's moving on from teams that are on the fringe of the playoffs to a team that got tested today that you had as an absolute lock, and that was Missouri and Vanderbilt. Missouri edges Vandy by 3 in OT, double OT actually.
Double OT.
In the first period of the second overtime, Missouri kicked a field goal. Vandy had an opportunity to win it. A bunch of disastrous results ending with a absolute shank of a field goal by the Commodores gives the Tigers the win and escapes with a victory. The Diego Paiva, I can't say his last name, but the transfer, thank you. The transfer from New Mexico State, 14 for 23, 250 yards from scrimmage, 2 touchdowns on the day. For Missouri, Nate Knoll, 24 carries, 199 yards, 8.3 yards per carry. Greg, what are your thoughts about this game?
Vandy again came out and shocked everybody this year. I think their people are still not paying attention to how good that football team actually is. And Missouri did not look good today. They just did not look good. And everybody's always talking about how Burden is the number 1 wide receiver in the country and all this other jazz. I'm not so sure that that's going to be the case. There's a kid out in Arizona who is a damn good wide receiver as well. And you got Travis Hunter as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But Burton did call it huge for the Tigers today. Had a massive touchdown late to tie up the game. He actually had a massive touchdown in overtime, if I'm not mistaken. So I agree. I have McMillan and Hunter over him, but Burton is certainly no. I have no. What's the right word to put it? I don't think he's that far off for the top of the pack. So, yeah, it's kind of my thoughts about that game. Vandy, close game, but they're making massive improvements, especially beating Virginia Tech, how we saw today. Perhaps that they could snatch some wins in SEC play and potentially, make a bowl game. You never know with the Commodores, right?
They could.
They look a lot better. I think that's the best way to put it. Vandy right now sits at 2-2. They play Alabama next week, but then you start looking at the schedule. There's some opportunities there. They play Kentucky. I think they have a chance in that one. They play Ball State, which they should win. And they also play Auburn in the season as well. They're gonna have to upset somebody, but hey, that loss to Georgia State definitely harmed their chances. But from what I've seen so far, I'm going to give them out. So that's what I have to say about that. Greg, what game do you want to talk about next?
Well, let's go to the Penn State destroying Kent State earlier, 56-0. I've said to you before, I think this Penn State team can be a contender in the Big Ten, and they looked very good today, very good.
Yeah, I don't share the same sentiment. I would expect them to be good against Kent State. This is a Kent State team that I think lost 71-0 against Tennessee. So they've been beaten up this whole year. So I'm not necessarily surprised.
Oh no, I'm not shocked by this score at all. I'm just talking about the way that Penn State played today.
Yeah, I just have concerns that they only show up against like this against opponents like Kent State. Like, I mean, even I'm not even saying Big Ten opponents. I'm talking about opponents that even just a little bit better. I feel like they struggle with. I think Penn State is unfortunately going to be in for a rude awakening to conference, but I think they're going to get dominated in the last scrimmage. Aller is really going to make some massive mistakes. That's gonna season. I'm not trying to be negative, but I have yet to see anything from Penn State that gives me confidence that they're remotely better than they were last year. I get they have a new offense coordinator, which is definitely helping things, but at the same time, you still got to be able to execute. And I just don't think that they execute at a high enough level against quality opponents for me to give them any vote of confidence moving forward.
Now let's talk about last night.
Right.
Illinois beating Nebraska.
Illinois got a team. Holy
Illinois is loaded. They are loaded.
Illinois can beat you on the ground and now in the air.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And that defense is still tough. That
Still
defense
tough.
is still tough, which you expect from Bielema. I mean, that's just
no doubt. No doubt.
You know, Washington State winning by 2 last night against San Jose State. This is the first time the Cougars have gone 4-0 2 straight seasons since 1906, 1907. Go Cougs.
Definitely go Cougs. One shout out to the proud people of the Palouse. I've always been a fan of Washington State. They needed everything in the book to come out with a win last night. They looked absolutely awful for majority of that game. John Mateer had himself a night. I believe over 300 yards passing, over 100 yards rushing. I was critical in the fourth quarter and in overtime. Washington State's defense, shout out to them. They really stepped up. They actually have a play. I believe his name was David Gusta or something like that. He's a dude, without a doubt. Jake Dickert was a guy that I had listed as a massive fire candidate at the end of last season. I also felt that he needed to do some massive things this year to be able to prove why he should be the head coach, and he's done it. Winning the Apple Cup was a massive thing for him to do last week. His second Apple Cup in his career. That's something that unfortunately a lot of Washington State head coaches can't really say. He has a quarterback in Mateer that I think is much more suited for a Ben Arbuckle offense than Cam Ward, because Ward just didn't run for some reason. But Mateer, he doesn't care. He'll go right into the fire, no problem. I think that's exactly the type of attitude the Cougs need at one of the most I've seen in college football. I don't know why people aren't giving him more love. He has absolutely been destroying opposing defenses. And, for San Jose State, the loss is disappointing. Their season is going to be very, very good. And they're probably going to be battling for one of those, Power 5 spots. With Kenny Omatalolo at the helm and Craig Stetson, the OC, why not? Why not San Jose State? I think that they've been a program on the rise for a while. And this is definitely the type of move that's going to take them to the next level. That's how I feel after last night's game. I just think they need more consistent play for their quarterback. Brown was just not. He just wasn't. What's the right word to say? I don't even want to use the word surreal. I guess that's what I gotta say in the big moments. I mean, you saw when Washington, and he just was not getting out to the hot route, or he was just waiting too long, and that's unfortunately the crux of Spartans' attack last night. So those are my thoughts on the game. Do you have anything to add?
No. Let's go to the Carolinas and discuss James Madison absolutely trashing the Tar Heels. I mean, it was 53 points at the half, 70 points to 50 is the final score. Mac Brown, wow. James Madison got paid $500K to come up to play them today, by the way, and they put up 53 first half points and 17 more in the second half. I mean, it was just a total blowout.
It was, and I know a lot of people right now are saying that they're about to be fired, and I understand why. Let's not act like the team hasn't had massive success under Brown either in his second tenure, or the fact that they're on their backup quarterback who has severe deficiencies. Let's not ignore those points. Max Johnson was in the game and they played like that. Okay, Yeah, I can understand that a little bit more. But since Matt Brown has been there, they have had a very prolific rushing attack. They have had multiple NFL players drafted from multiple positions, and North Carolina has never really been a prolific team outside of Brown anyway. So it's not like there was a
No.
decrease in talent. So pump the brakes. I understand today's game was definitely a tough pill to swallow, but like North Carolina hasn't been one of the more successful teams in college football ever since Mac returned to Chapel Hill.
Yeah, and then of course there's always the other clown that I despise out in the Carolinas named Dabo Sweeney. Boy, they put the boots to North Carolina State. North Carolina State had no chance, no chance today.
I mean, I think we kind of knew they didn't have a chance when McCall just didn't work out. I don't know what is going on with him, but yeah, they were on their backup, so there was already an issue with that, of course, and yeah, Clemson's wins have come not because Dabo's been out coaching people, it's because it's been inferior competition, and Dabo might ride that all the way to the playoffs again. But if they go to the playoff, Clemson is going to get absolutely embarrassed by whoever they play. That's without a doubt. So for Clemson fans, just enjoy.
Clemson will not make the playoff. They will not make the playoff. They will not. They will not be the ACC champion either.
I don't know. Who do you think is going to beat them?
Miami will.
Wow, I don't trust Miami.
So, well, that's the whole thing, right? Who can you trust in the ACC? What team can you really trust in the ACC?
The California Golden Bears. And I say that by not knowing the score. Never mind, they lost.
They lost.
Shut up, Florida State. Pick up the first win of the season. You know what? Imagine that. Imagine FSU somehow wins the ACC. Oh, could you imagine?
Could you imagine it? It could have actually ended up being Stanford and Cal in the ACC championship, having to travel all the way out to the Carolinas to play the game.
Yeah, you imagine like Stanford and Cal fans just look at each other at San Francisco airport, just like, "You going to Florida? I am going to Florida. How about you?" But that would have been that's not fun to think about, to say the least.
Well, they'd have to go to Charlotte, because that's where the ACC plays.
Oh, I thought it was in Tampa.
No. The ACC game is in Charlotte.
Oh.
So they would have had to go to North Carolina.
Does San Francisco fly straight to Charlotte? That's the real question. Imagine they don't, and like you just have a bunch of Cal and Stanford fans having to like switch planes. I think that'd be kind of funny. That'd be like
It would be. It would have been. But Tennessee, of course, is Tennessee's defense tonight has just been so phenomenal against Oklahoma.
Yeah, I mean, but it's also pretty easy to be phenomenal on defense against Oklahoma. I mean, good Lord, what happened to them?
Oklahoma, I knew Oklahoma was not a 15th ranked team in the country. I mean, didn't you?
I don't think you saw. I don't think I even have them in my top 25. I might have
you did. I don't think you had them in your top 25.
They're not a top 25 team. The only reason why Oklahoma's ranked is because they're the Oklahoma. And Ben Switzer was around in the 80s and 70s. That's the only reason why Oklahoma's ranked. Like, I'm sorry, this is not a good team. Jackson Arnold has a long way to go into being a successful quarterback. Latrell has been absolutely horrendous as offense coordinator, which is pretty bad considering his replacement was pretty horrendous as well. Brett Venables has come in and done nothing but absolutely fall below expectations ever since he's been the head coach of the Oklahoma Sooners. Now, I did not expect Oklahoma to compete in this game. Tennessee's way too good offensively and defensively, but it's kind of embarrassing when you bring back a guy in Josh Heupel in Tennessee who is the native son of Oklahoma, who led the Sooners to a national title, who was the OC for them for a long time. Then he got fired by them, and now you look back and like, oh wow, like what would have happened? Now I understand why they did what they did back then. I'm not blaming them for it, but I'm telling Oklahoma to address the issues now. They have not been the same since Kel Gundy got fired, and whether you believe that was a justified fire or not is not here nor there to argue. The point is, if they haven't been able to replace one man in 3 years, that is indicative of larger issues inside the program, and they need to either clean house or do something to get together. Because outside of Billy Bowman and Billy Stutz, and not Billy Bowman and Daddy Stutzman, and maybe a couple other guys, there's not a lot of talent that I have as championship level on the Sooners team.
And Arch Manning has only thrown for 258 yards tonight with 2 TDs and 2 picks. He's been picked off twice. Arch Manning.
I hope this finally shuts up everybody that wants Manning to replace Ewers. Because that was the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. There is a reason Arch Manning is a backup right now. Right? I'm not trying to sound like Anthony Lynn when it came to Justin Herbert in the NFL, but this is college athletics. If Arch really was that dude as of right now, he would be the starter. But he's not for a reason. So I think Texas needs to play Arch today like they did, play him next week at Mississippi State, and when they play, I believe Georgia or something like that is next for the massive game in conference. That's when you bring back Ewers, because there's no way you can legitimately say Texas is the number 1 team in the country right now with Manning as their quarterback.
And Mississippi State losing to Florida.
Holy moly, what a disaster. Florida didn't just beat them. Florida beat the shit out of them.
I know.
Badly, which warms my heart, because I think that their head coach, whose name is unfortunately not coming to me, but Art Briles' son-in-law, is one of the most idiotic minds in all of college football. How he's able to claim that he is one of the more forward thinkers in offensive philosophy just because he worked under Lane Kiffin is beyond me. That dude was trash at Oklahoma, and we're seeing it now at Mississippi State. I'm not saying that Mississippi State didn't need to fire Zach Arnett after last year, but what I am saying is that the guy that they hired to replace him was absolutely an unacceptable hire based off what he already did off the field and what he's done since then. He's done nothing to prove that his on-the-field production justifies him at all. And then for what he did last year at Oklahoma with bringing his father-in-law Art Briles to the game and all that other stuff, like he just doesn't get it. He doesn't get it. And when you have a guy that doesn't get it and you take him to a place like Starkville, Mississippi, when you need a guy who gets it more than most to be able to be successful, this is the type of result you're going to get, and good for you because y'all hired him. Congratulations, all your fans who work hard during the week, who paid good money to watch this game at Davis Wade, were leaving early because your head coach cannot put an acceptable brand of football on the field.
Yep. Definitely true. Definitely true. Notre Dame plays Louisville.
Jeff Levy, that's his name. Sorry, just came to me. Jeff Levy.
So Louisville beat Georgia Tech today, 31-19.
Surprising to you? Not surprised to me.
Not a surprise to me either, because that Louisville defense is still very solid. I think next week when they do come to South Bend, it is going to be a defensive battle. It is just going to be a defensive battle.
I can see that. I think that game against Louisville next week is going to be a season-defining game for the Fighting Irish. And if they can win, I think the season gets back on track and they are a virtual shoe-in for the continental playoff. I think if they lose, I think some serious questions need to start being asked about Marcus Freeman. Now, I'm not saying that they need to get rid of Marcus Freeman. I'm not suggesting that at all. But what I am saying is, what is the issues that are preventing Notre Dame from winning against what is inferior opponents? So that's definitely something to be
but
analyzed.
again, now Notre Dame doesn't have, they lost so many guys on the offensive line that, I mean, they're very, very young on that offensive line. And if Louisville can attack them the same way they did last year, oh Lord. And that was against Joe Alt and Blake Fisher that they did this to. Both guys playing in the NFL. This could get testy. But Riley Leonard again, the guy can escape like nobody's business. He can just, I don't know how he's doing that, how he's shucking guys away from him as well. He's just been so good on the ground. But he did have a passing touchdown today. Yes, it took 16 quarters of football for Riley Leonard to get a passing touchdown. It was amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Leonard's, I don't understand what's like the hold up. Is it because Leonard doesn't have the speed that Jaden Daniels had is why he's not as successful in this Denver offense as we expected. Yeah, I just don't understand what's been holding him back, but I hope that this finally starts to kick off what should be a very good campaign for him, considering we watched it last year. I had him as one of the more pro-ready quarterbacks at the beginning of the season. Obviously, things didn't work out for him towards the end, and that's why he's still in college. But still, this guy's got a lot of talent. And what is the issues behind getting that talent in positions to, produce?
Yep.
I don't know.
It's been very strange to see him only have the one passing touchdown, especially after you saw what he was able to do at Duke. Let's see, today he was 16 of 25 for 154 yards with the one touchdown, but he ran for 143 yards with 2 TDs. And Jason Garrett, you're wrong about the best running back duo in the country in Love and Price. No, they're good running backs, but it's not the best duo in the country.
Yeah, that's an outrageous statement by Garrett, but also to be expected because it's Jason Garrett.
Yeah, exactly. Now, see, this is the Notre Dame guy talking here. The Notre Dame guy who stays real and honest about things. Love and Price are both good running backs, but they're not the best duo in the country. I'm sorry,
no.
But it's going to be interesting next week to see what happens, because this game's at Notre Dame this year, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I have Notre Dame taking this one. I just think that's a bit too much for Louisville at this time. I think Notre Dame is going to be able to attack them through the air, and they're going to be successful. I think it's going to be like a 31-28 Irish win.
Yeah, we'll see. Let's see. The young man from Utah who started at quarterback. Apparently, that's Zach Wilson's little brother.
Yep.
Yeah. And of course, the clowns on ESPN this morning were saying, "Well, Cam Rising doesn't play. I don't think they're going to win." Okay, Kirk Herbstreit, you jackass. No, Utah is this good of a football team that they were going to pound Oklahoma State, and they pretty much did.
Yeah, that's without a doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Oklahoma State had opportunities early, but they Mike Gundy themselves midway through the game, and that is do the exact thing that makes you unsuccessful, and that's why. Like, I'm sorry, there's no reason Oklahoma State should have lost this game in my opinion. Even if Cam Rising was started, they have a good enough defense, and their offense is filled with playmakers. You have Ollie Gordon the second as a running back, who hasn't been able to get off to a hot start this season, but he's still a very effective playmaker. And to me, you have one of the more premier wide receiver groups in the country. If you have a quarterback that can put the ball on the money time and time again, you should be able to be successful. Unfortunately, Alex Bowman is not that guy. However, you can scheme things so that he can be a little bit more of that guy. And I felt that when push came to shove, they were calling things that just they didn't make sense for the situation. How do you feel, Greg?
Well, I mean, I heard the ESPN crowd this morning all going on about Alex Bowman being a good quarterback and all this other jazz. And okay, yeah, he's decent, but he's not that great. And the Utah defender picked him up on that one long pass today. That was just beautiful. That was a beautiful interception.
Shout out to Utah for being able to replace defenders left and right. They lost a tremendous amount of talent last year on the overall, but especially on the defense side of the ball. They just keep producing high quality guys like left and right. So just good job to them. Like they're very impressive, and I would not be surprised if they were the Big 12 champion at the end of the season.
Yeah, which is not. It shouldn't shock anybody if you've seen Utah play in the Pac-12 the last few years. I can't wait until I can't. When do they get a hold of Dion? When do they get Dion?
I think towards the end of the season, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
I think it's a rivalry game, even though no one really cares about it.
Well, okay. No,
it's like one of those made up rivalry games.
Yeah.
You know?
Dion's boys are going to get pounded by Kansas State.
It got it. I mean, I don't even understand what's happening against Baylor right now. I had Colorado winning this game against Baylor, but they looked absolutely awful. Like,
what's the score in that one now?
I think Colorado's up by not Colorado. I think Baylor's up by 7. It's like 31-24, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Oh, but Colorado has the ball with 2 minutes to go, so who knows? Maybe them can engineer a comeback. Colorado has a ridiculous wide receiver room, and like it's never utilized, and it pisses me off. Like if Sean Lewis was still the OC of Colorado, I'm not saying they'd be good, but they would be prolific on offense. Like their wide receivers are, in my opinion, they're that good.
But again, Colorado's defense just sucks. They absolutely suck.
Oh yeah, they blow. There's no doubt about that.
So there's another slap against Warren Sapp, which is a good thing. You know, all you clowns who come up and buddy up with Dion there because you were NFL players together and decide that you can all be coaches, you all need the rest home, okay? That includes you, Deion Sanders. You need to be in a rest home. You are not that good of a football coach. You're just not.
Yeah. It's getting difficult to be able to justify some of the decisions that he makes. It's getting bad, and it's getting bad quickly. But at the same time, who does Colorado go to? Like, who can honestly turn around Colorado?
It's a very good question because I mean, Neuheisel was there. No, he's an old guy. He's in the booth.
And also his time at UCLA kind of ended any chance of him.
And ended any hopes of ever being a good coach again.
Yeah, especially when Mora was able to take UCLA like back to the top 25 like a year after.
Let's see what other former Denver Bronco is still lying around in Denver that should just step in and become their Colorado head coach. I don't know of anybody.
You think Mike Shanahan wants to give coaching one last go?
No, I think Mike's a little old.
Fair. Let's see. Well, Clint Kubiak is the OC for the Saints, and he's having success. So does Gary have any other sons that are into football? No. And Mr. Kubiak is going to be the next head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. You just settle down. He's not going to be.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
No, he's not. No, he's not.
Yes, he is.
No, is he a yes man?
Yes.
He's not a yes man. He's in fact the opposite of a yes man.
He was hired by Dennis Allen. He's a yes man.
He is not a yes man. Dennis Allen is a yes man. He is not a yes. Kubiak's not going to the Cowboys. You are tripping. I'll be getting ready for a nice daily dose of who's a Dallas Cowboys sounding head coach. Hold on, let me think about this. Let's see who's been out of the league for a couple of years and maybe making some noise. John Gruden. There you go.
No.
Absolutely
not. Absolutely not. No.
100%. Yes.
No.
Yeah. You watch Gruden Loves Football. That's good stuff.
Right. Yeah, I'm really going to pay attention to anything that moron has to say about the game of football.
What you mean? He won a Super Bowl. He can win you a Super Bowl too.
Yeah.
Hey, to be fair though, if he was your head coach, you guys would definitely have a rush-based first attack again. So keep that in mind. Even though you guys just paid Dak and CD tremendous money.
Yeah, but see, the Dallas Cowboys don't understand how to sign running backs or defensive tackles, so we don't have to worry about the Super Bowl for quite some time.
Hey, maybe you guys go get Genty from Boise State. There you go. Talk about that. What's Boise State looking like right now? Because last I checked, they weren't doing too good against Portland State. Oh, they are up 28 to 20. Yeah, about to be 28-7. All right. Well, Greg, I think we are reaching the end of the show, so you know what time it is. Time for the statement. Greg, you're up first. Let us know, what is your statement for today?
We saw quite a few big days from people today. But the guy that I want to give my shout out to is from Ohio State. Mr. Judkins had 173 yards on 14 carries, 2 touchdowns. That guy was just so dominant today. He was just absolutely dominant. So he's going to be my guy that I give my shout out ball to today.
Quinshawn Judkins, he gets a shout out. For my last statement, I was going back and forth about this, but I have to give my last shout out to the Auburn Tigers and the absolute failure of an organization that they are. Why they hired Hugh Freeze to this day, I will never know. And my skepticism has now been justified.
What head coach or coordinator does Brock want to fire now? Jeff will settle him down, trust me. Grab a snack and another drink. Let's get back to The Last Word, the show for the real college football fan.
Well, Jeff's not here. Jeff is not here, so there's no one to settle me down. So
I am. I'm here, and I'll settle you down. All right.
Settle me down. Settle me down. Why should Auburn hire Freeze?
Hugh Freeze is in a tough place. He's in a tough spot, obviously. I mean, Woo Pig Sooie did a number on him, 24-14 today. But again, this is the world of college football that we're living in today. If you don't have the talent, you're just not going to succeed. And Auburn just does not have the same level of talent that they've had in the years past. That's the bottom line here. Is it Hugh Freeze's fault that he doesn't get that he's not getting the same NIL guys or the transfer portal? Is it his fault? Is it his fault?
Yes, it is his fault. It is absolutely his fault.
But he's against an Alabama in his own state. Then of course you've got Georgia right next door to you. You got all those other big name schools. Auburn is just going to be left behind. It's just a fact of life.
I'm not expecting Hugh Freeze to go and win the SEC. That would be ridiculous. I'm expecting him to have some competency in his program. He went on air today and said that they have some of the best in college football, a statement I agree with. They just don't have a guy that can get the ball to them, which I also agree with. The problem is, who got the guy that can't get the ball to them? Peyton Thorne has been a problem for this season. But you know what? He was also a problem last season. And do you know what? He was a problem the year before. And you know what happened the year before that when he wasn't a problem? He had Kenneth Walker III, who had one of the most prolific rushing attacks in college football. So you have a guy who hasn't had a good season in 3 years, a guy who you've known cannot get the ball to you for at least one. And yet, what is your plan in the portal? Let's keep him and see what happens. I'm sorry, that's completely on you. The fact that you didn't give your team even a chance with another guy, you didn't go out and get another guy, is an indication you don't know what the hell you're doing. I think the quarterback they got in the transfer portal was Sam Jackson from Cal, who didn't even start for them. I mean, he got his opportunities, but he didn't get the job done. So I'm sorry. This is completely on Hugh Freeze. Hugh Freeze can't coach. He can't recruit. He cannot win at a high level. He wanted liberty, and you know what happened when he left? But they got better when he left.
That's the big problem with Auburn is they're not able to recruit the same way that other schools are, and that's just the way it is. I mean, it's just there's nothing that Auburn can do to suddenly become a much better offensive football team. There really isn't because everybody knows that if you're going to be quarterbacking, you want a quarterback at Georgia, you want a quarterback at Alabama, Ole Miss, Missouri, even the kid that Arkansas has.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you cannot tell me right now Arkansas is a better situation to have success in than Auburn. I refuse to believe it. I'm sorry. That's just not true. Like, it's Auburn. They have a bunch of rich donors. It's Auburn. They pack their stadium every week. It's one of the best.
And you don't think that Arkansas has rich donors? Hello.
I think Arkansas how to use their money.
Jerry Jones.
I think Arkansas understands how to use their money. That's why they're having success compared to Auburn. It's not about not having money. It's about how they allocate it. And quite frankly, Auburn just doesn't know how to allocate their funds. Like they have premier players all over that field, but the one premier position they decide to go cheap on. Are you kidding me? Are you telling me right now Auburn didn't have the money to go get a guy like Cam Ward? Are you telling me
how many of those Auburn offensive linemen are going to be NFL starters?
That's what I'm saying though. But they decided to load up the wide receiver room but not prioritize the line. Like I'm sorry, Auburn has been you've studied the draft more than most. Are you telling me right now within the past 10 years Auburn hasn't been producing quality players?
No, they've had some quality players, but do they have the same? Do they have the same numbers as a Michigan or an Alabama or a Georgia? No, they don't.
They should have the same numbers as a damn Cal or New Mexico State or any other teams they lost to over the past couple of years. Like,
But again, you got to look at the conference that they're living in. They're in the SEC. They're going to be the bottom feeders. That's just the bottom line.
then why weren't they the bottom feeders in the Malzahn?
That was before the transfer portal got big. Come on.
I'm sorry. UCF right now is with Malzahn is better than Auburn right now is with Hugh Freeze, and that's directly on the program, and that's why Hugh Freeze needs to go. That's my statement for today. Well, Greg, I think we've had some different opinions, but some real good thoughts to say the least. Before we head out, is there anything else you want to add?
Well, you should be proud of me for saying the UNLV Running Rebels are now the #1 team in the country to make the playoff out of the Power 5 here.
I'm very proud of you for saying that. I mean, you should have said it about 2 weeks ago, but we're not.
No, I had Memphis sitting there first because I was just so impressed with the way that they had played their first 3 games. But today,
impressed with UNLV going on the road to Big 12 opponents and beating the shit out of them.
I was impressed when they went out and beat Kansas. I said so, which I said,
I don't know. I'm just saying.
How
about in week 2 when a bunch of teams are losing to inferior opponents, UNLV beat their opponent like 70-14.
Yep.
I'm just saying.
Yeah. But like I keep reminding you, UNLV has improved ever since you've left the school. That's the important thing here. It's the student body. The student body is now.
Student body.
Yeah, the student body is why because before they couldn't win the Taco Time Fans of the Year with you there. They wouldn't have won anything.
I would like to add that they were playing in an inferior stadium when I was there. I'm sure that had nothing to do with the success or the fact that Barry Odom wasn't there when I was a student. I'm sure that just throwing that out there as well.
Yeah.
Just so you know, just saying.
And Brian Billick has apparently put in some good words with his BYU Cougars here because he gave them their pregame speech this week, and they're only down 6-0 to Kansas State.
Damn, all right. What is with like BYU and producing high level coaches? Like obviously Bronco Mendenhall and Whittingham, I think went to BYU if I'm not mistaken. Brian Billick, Andy Reid, like they got some names. Like good job to the Cougars. Very impressive.
Yeah. But anyhow, hey, this has been the last word.
Yes. Everyone, thank you guys so much for watching. Please like and subscribe to our channel. We will be back next week at this time, like we are every week at this time. Hopefully, Jeff Barnes will be back as well, so you get his wonderful insight. He's currently on assignment covering USF at Miami, wrapping that game up with ease. And we will see you guys next week.